Hi, welcome to CJ Creates. I'm CJ, and I create stuff. This is a pretty exciting episode for our Wentano region Pokémon. Why, you might ask? Well, typically, I talk a lot about animals and mammalian biology, or really the biology of whatever kind of animal my Pokemon's based off of, and that's a lot of fun. But something I haven't gotten to unleash quite yet is my inner dinosaur kid. This may shock you. That came before the animal stuff. Get ready. Now you might be wondering, okay, dinosaur kid, what do you mean when you say dinosaur kid? A lot of people know that term. It's someone who was into dinosaurs when they were a kid. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about being an absolute dinosaur fanatic as a child. If you're wondering what that means, I'll try and use the words of my mother as best I can. Supposedly, and moms can be unreliable narrators at times, I had memorized the names of 200 to 300 dinosaurs by the age of 2 and was using them regularly. Now, again, that sounds like a lot for a 2-year-old, and as someone who has a 2-year-old, that really seems like a lot. But I also really remember liking dinosaurs, and I still know a lot of dinosaur names to this day without having put too much extra effort into that. So, whether or not it's true, you decide. What I do know is that Carnotaurus has always been one of my personal favorite dinosaurs. For those of you who don't know, Carnotaurus is the quote-unquote villain in the movie Dinosaur, which if you watch as an adult is quite boring, but if you watch as a child is significantly less boring, especially if you love dinosaurs. It's a carnivore, it's a meat-eating dinosaur. In fact, its name actually just means meat-eating bull in Latin, which is very cool. So, that's kind of what I'm setting out to make, is a meat-eating bull. Now, what does that mean? Well, in this, I guess it's technically not a basic stage, version of this fossil Pokemon, we're going to focus on making a baby cow that's also a dinosaur. Primarily dinosaur, just with cow influence. I think it's interesting to kind of flip this naming on its head. Instead of making it a dinosaur that kind of looks like a bull because of its 2 horns, we're going to make a dinosaur that actually is a bull, which is pretty fun. That's also why I've added the nose ring. I recognize that there's a lot of lore implications for a prehistoric dinosaur Pokemon that's resurrected and then has a supposedly forged golden nose ring or piercing. That's a whole other story that I don't care to get into, so we're just going to use Pokemon logic and say it just comes that way. It's good. Funny fact about Carnotaurus, it has the smallest arms of any dinosaur its size. A lot of people make fun of T-Rex for its tiny arms, but it's got nothing on Carnotaurus. That's why these arms are pretty much useless. They're tiny, they do have claws, but if you haven't figured out, this little Pokemon is not going to be making very good use of them. Meet Carnotaurus, the Dino Bull Pokemon. Carnotaurus surprised Wentano researchers with its burst of energy when it was revived. Though typically content to roam open areas, Carnotaurus seemed to get random bursts of energy with indeterminate lengths and strength. The crests over Carnotaurus' eyes are made from the same material as its claws and tail hairs, keratin. The purpose of the crest is currently being studied, but is thought to be an identifier. So what are we going to do to evolve Carnotaurus? Well, part of that is backtracking a little bit. I didn't explain why Carnotaurus is a normal type. I think it's just because it's a cow. It's a cow dinosaur. I don't think it gets more complex than that. It's just kind of normal. I also think that what its superpower is, which I mentioned briefly in its Pokedex entry, is kind of just normal. And I'll explain why. We'll do that now. Here's some science words for you. Keratin is a pretty common organic material. You may say, what is keratin? And I'm going to ask you to look at the back of your hand, fingers extended. You should have, at least if you have 5 fingers, 5 fingernails on that hand. Those are made of keratin. Now, if you look at the top of your head or bottom of your chin, or maybe your legs or armpits, you're also going to see some hair. Hair is also made of keratin. And this is true across the animal kingdom. You have a lot of horns, hooves, toenails. A lot of specialized parts, especially of mammals, are made of keratin. Even things like rhinoceros horns. Keratin. Very cool. What makes keratin special is that dependent on how you use it, it can either be really strong or it can be really flexible. Things like hair, right? I mean, that's a very thin strand of keratin, very useful. Also having horns, super useful. So this Pokemon's special power is the ability to have keratin all over its body and control that a little bit. You're noticing, hopefully by now, that it's got a big bushy mane of hair, 2 massive horns, hooves, claws, and a pretty unique tail. That's what I really want to get into, is the tail. The rest of its body is cool. I'm a big fan of it. But this idea of a lasso tail on a bull dinosaur Pokemon is maybe one of my favorites I've ever had. The idea that it has this big ring of keratin that it can kind of shrink or grow and extend as needed and use just like a lasso kind of makes its tiny little useless arms acceptable. It makes it seem like this Pokemon has a real strategy for survival. I've also added some more gold rings to the body. Just continue using Pokemon logic for those. Don't ask me questions, please. I don't feel like answering them. Meet Carnotaurus, the dino bull Pokemon. Carnotaurus' arms are too small to be of any use to it, but it makes up for this with a long neck, large horns, and flexible prehensile tail. Its bushy mane, tail, horns, and hooves are all made from keratin. This gives Carnotaurus a resilient offense and defense in battle. Sturdy, but flexible when needed. It lacks any fear and will often charge headfirst into situations recklessly, ignoring any potential consequences. So, let's do another fossil Pokemon. Now, I'm going to try and avoid oversharing here, but there's something pretty interesting you should know about the sauropod dinosaurs. For those of you unfamiliar with the sauropod dinosaurs, think of things like Littlefoot or any other long-necked dinosaur. Your Apatosaurus, your Brachiosaurus, your Supersaurus, your Ultrasaurus, your Titanosaurus. Anything that sounds like it should be massive is probably a sauropod dinosaur. Now, the funny thing is that for a long, long time, scientists could not figure out how they could support their own body weight. These things were massive. Like, I can't even try and iterate to you through this YouTube video how big the sauropod dinosaurs were. The thing about being big is that it's really hard to hold up your own weight. Scientists ran tests and tests and tests trying to figure out how this could have happened, and now we've kind of reached a conclusion that it was probably just a lot of padding between their joints. But before that, scientists just kind of thought they might have been aquatic or semi-aquatic, just like whales. The reason whales can get so big, in fact, side note, the blue whale is the largest thing to have ever lived on our planet. Incredible that you live on this planet at the same time as the biggest thing that has ever lived on this planet. So cool. But that's why the blue whale can get so big, is because water supports all of that weight. Not true of the sauropod dinosaurs. So, I thought it would be fun to, instead of making an aquatic sauropod dinosaur, what if I made a volcanic sauropod dinosaur? One that loved to wade in lava and lived in these lava environments to help support its own weight. I've also elected to use one of my personal favorite sauropod dinosaurs as the middle stage for this Pokemon. Also, does anyone, please clear this up for me, are fossils the basic, and then what the fossils turn into, is that a second stage Pokemon? Because in the card game, that's how it treats it, but in my head, that just don't make no sense. Anyways, share your thoughts in the comments. Which part of a fossil Pokemon's line is the basic stage? In my opinion, this should be the basic stage. Anyways, we're using Brachiosaurus. I love Brachiosaurus. It's got a big crest on its head. It's the one that you see in Jurassic Park. It's a fantastic dinosaur. So I've decided to make a Brachiosaurus that lives in volcanic environments. It loves to wade through lava. It thrives on this heat. And it could even be one of the ancestors of one of the Wentano and starter Pokemon. I'll let you guess which one it is. Meet Brachiosaurus, the volcanic dino Pokemon. Wentano and scientists believe that no other fossil Pokemon has been as perfectly restored as Brachiosaurus. This is because it likely would have been a rock and fire type even in prehistoric times. Its head and tail are hot to the touch, making attacking this Pokemon quite a difficult task. Generally, it seems unbothered by the world around it, and focuses on doing its own thing. The magma on its body runs at different temperatures. Now, A lot of you long-term Pokemon fans out there might be saying to yourself, why is CJ making another sauropod dinosaur Pokemon? We have at least 3, 4 if you count Giratina. Why make another one? We don't need more. And I would say we do have a lot, and actually a lot for any type of dinosaur-based Pokemon, but I have a complaint, and that's why I've made this Pokemon. Here's my complaint. I want different body types of my sauropod dinosaurs represented. I think with the exception of Giratina, which has 6 legs, they all kind of look the same, just with palette swaps. Sure, Tropius has wings. Okay, I'll give you that. I back off. But I love the Ultrasaurus, and I'll put up a picture for you, body type. I think that this embodies strength. This isn't just a Pokemon with a long neck, or I should say a dinosaur with a long neck. This is a strong, muscular animal built to carry massive weight, and honestly, it's basically unhuntable because of it. Ultrasaurus is one of the largest dinosaurs to have ever lived. It's an incredible animal, and I think it's a shame that it doesn't have its own Pokemon. I love Meganium and Aurorus and Tropius and Giratina as much as the next person does. Giratina is my favorite legendary Pokemon, okay? But that being said, the sauropod dinosaurs have so much more to offer than we're currently seeing in Pokemon. So I'm making my own, okay? And I'm using volcanoes to do it. Another complaint I have about fossil Pokemon, which you may find that I love fossil Pokemon, but I have lots of complaints. The other complaint is that they're too small. I think Tyrantrum and Aurorus actually get the closest to my perfect fossil Pokemon in terms of size. A lot of these dinosaurs were sizable. Now, obviously, I think Rampardos is about the right size, but Bastiodon? Holy cow. I mean, that thing should be the size of a school bus, and it's just not. These Pokemon do not fulfill the fantasy of having a dinosaur as your companion, as your best friend. Part of the advantage to having a dinosaur is that it's massive, okay? It should be almost like riding around on a dragon. It should be huge. I want it to be able to deal massive damage. I want to take Steelix, take its size, transpose that to Bastiodon, and boom, I think you might have my favorite fossil Pokemon. But instead, you're stuck with me loving Armaldo because he's just weird and lovable. I don't know. I like him a lot. Anyways, meet Eruption, the eruption dino Pokemon. Eruption has the smallest head-to-body ratio of any Pokemon. Its massive size, in combination with its habit of erupting, means that it's likely had no predators in ancient times. Eruption has 9 volcanic vents along its body that can be used for long-range attacks. In contrast, its long neck and tail can be swung with great force to stun opponents. The stripes on its belly and limbs burn at different colors based on their current temperature. And there you have it. I fulfilled my dream of making more dinosaur-based fossil Pokemon. I love the ones we have, and I do love that we have fossils that aren't just dinosaurs, but there is such a wealth of dinosaurs to pull from that we just aren't seeing in Pokemon. So I've taken it into my own hands. I've made cooler, keratin-based, supermassive sauropod dinosaur Pokemon. What do you think? What would the fantasy be for you if you were to bring back, supposedly, a Pokemon from ancient times? What would that look like? Is it a big dinosaur or is it something else? Let me know in the comments. Until then, thank you.